I'm Ed Kelley, editor of the Oklahoman. I recently had a chance to sit down with Rodney Bivens, Executive Director of the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma. Rodney, the month of May is a big time, obviously, for the Regional Food Bank with your Feeding Hope drive that's starting. Tell us how people can participate this year in the drive.
Well, it's a lot of different ways. It's Feeding Hope letter carriers food drive, and one of the big emphases we do is the letter carriers initially, and they'll be passing out bags starting the 7th of May,
okay.
And then they'll come back on the 10th of May, which is Saturday, and we ask everybody to put that bag out full of canned goods, and before 8 a.m. on Saturday, May the 10th, and then the carriers will pick it up.
These are mostly people in central Oklahoma can participate in this?
That's correct. This year we're actually doing 5 outlying areas too to increase participation. We're doing Norman, Lawton, and some other communities this year that we haven't done before, just as a trial to see how it goes.
Yeah. Letter carriers have been great partners with you, have they not?
Oh, tremendous partners. It's just every year, I mean, they go beyond, you know, because some of those little small trucks come back in, our volunteers are taking it off the trucks and the tires are almost flat.
Yeah, you've been at this a long time, Rodney, almost 30 years. How would you describe, if you will, the state of hunger in Oklahoma early in the 21st century?
Challenging, probably more challenging than we've ever had before. The poverty rate in Oklahoma is one of the few states in the country that continues to increase at an alarming rate. Hunger continues to increase. Just the food insecurity has gone from 13.1% to 14.6% in the last 5 years. And that's alarming for us. Ironically, at the same time, per capita income of Oklahomans is going up.
Right.
So it's almost a dichotomy between what's happening in the state. While those who are doing well are doing extremely well,
sure.
But those who are not doing well at all.
So when we see in the newspaper or elsewhere stories about the increase in the rate of food stamps, this doesn't surprise you? It
doesn't surprise me, and the reason it doesn't too, it's alarming because more people need it, more working poor need it, simply don't have enough to make it through each month. And even the food stamps is a little deceptive because it's not tied to inflation, it's tied back to 1996. So as food costs have continued to go up, the buying power of food stamps has gone down. So they can actually get less today than they could back in 1996 with the same amount of food stamps.
And obviously the recent rise in some food prices, including basic foodstuffs like macaroni and cheese, is having an effect as well.
Oh, it's shocking. Our macaroni and cheese prices have gone up over 80% just recently, and tuna 23%.
Right.
Just plain macaroni has gone up 77%. So it's an alarming rate.
The footprint of the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma, I think a lot of people think it's just Metro Oklahoma City, but it really goes all throughout the western 2/3 of the state, does it not?
That is correct. We cover all of central and western Oklahoma in 53 counties, all of central and western Oklahoma, and it's a 45,000 square mile area, wow. So it's a little challenging sometimes, but our philosophy has always been, whether it's a person who needs food in the panhandle of Oklahoma or in Oklahoma City, our responsibility is to try to get it to them.
So the economic conditions of rural Oklahoma obviously affects the challenges of feeding, as you said, the working poor in some parts of our great state.
It does, and it also affects senior citizens. A lot of the children and grandchildren have left the rural areas, have migrated to the cities for jobs and stuff,
right.
And their grandparents, or in some cases their parents, have been left in the rural areas. They may own land, but they're living off Social Security, and they're having to make choices of whether they can afford to fill their prescription or they can have food on their table, and this is choices we shouldn't have to make in Oklahoma.
Right, exactly. So, Rodney, when people ask you, what can we do as citizens, or what can the state do to try to ensure that our fellow men and women, particularly our children, have enough to eat each and every day, what do you tell them?
Well, there's really 3 things. One is, you know, you can make a difference by just contributing food to our food drive, the Feeding Hope and Letter Carriers food drive that's coming up. That's obviously one way, because people say, well, me donating 1 can, does that really make a difference? And my answer is, if 1 million people do that,
sure.
That may be 1 million pounds of food, and it makes a huge difference. That's one way. We have a Food for Kids backpack program that we're trying to expand throughout our 53 county service areas in 37 counties now, serving 7,100 children. We're always needing support, especially out in the rural areas, to sustain that program and to expand it. So that's another. They can always volunteer their time.
Mm-hmm. Describe a little bit more before we go to that third point about the backpack program. Kids get it on Fridays, right?
That's correct. It's a weekend backpack program, child-friendly food. As children been defined, it's not just because they're low income or they may not have a certain meal of the weekend. We define it as chronically hungry children. Children will have nothing to eat over the weekend or very little. And we're currently serving 7,100 in 239 elementary schools in 37 counties.
But you would be able to serve how many, or the defined need, would you say, is it 2 or 3 times that?
We estimate the need to be another 14,000, approximately
Wow.
21,000. So we're meeting the need of about a third of the children that need this program.
What would be that third thing that people can do to help?
Well, if people can't give their food or can't give money, they can always volunteer their time.
Okay.
They can go to our website on every Saturday at the food bank. We have open volunteering. We usually have 150 to 300 people there volunteering. Last year alone, we had over 14,000 people volunteered their time, represented over 42,000 hours. We simply couldn't exist without the volunteers.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Appreciate you having me.